Why is shame such a powerful emotion? How does it affect us mentally, physically, emotionally? I'm Nadia Davis. I'm a mom, author, attorney, and Kundalini yoga teacher who has experienced public shaming that brought me to my knees. On this podcast, I'm going to tell you how I'm living the work taking shame out of the shadows. I'll give you real-life advice and skills to take away with you throughout your day. You'll hear from powerful guests who have overcome trauma and emerged stronger than ever. You too can ban the shame within and around you. Join me. You are not alone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Home is Within You. Today we have a special guest, Erik Perezbrain, who blows my mind. Just a fantastic human being and overall just leader in so many ways. His goal is to help children with positive self-control, and his hope is that young readers of his book and books come away from them with an improved concept of themselves. I met Erik through the International Latino Book Awards because, like me, he is an honorable mention, and I was drawn to his teachings and his words while we gathered online about helping children transform what I believe is shame into power. And I think like anything that is helping others can actually help people transform shame. And when he was talking about kids, I just thought, okay, I'm going to reach out to him and see if he will be interviewed. And he agreed. I'm going to describe some general signs of shame and how it showed up for me as a child, and also how I see it show up for my kids. And then while my book shares, a spiritual solution and describes how breath work enabled calm and safety in my own body, and that's the work that I do helping others with today, that I'm trying to pass down to my kids, there is also another way. And I believe that Erik's approach is also a solution that can direct our ego mind to work on our behalf. So we'll dive into his book, his story, and his coaching tips so we can help our kids shift the energy that may be focused on shame-based feelings instead to positive affirmations. So first, I'm going to read. Do you want me to read your bio? I would like to read your bio.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Erik Perezbrain is a father, an entrepreneur, a soccer coach, a Jiu Jitsu medalist, an art collector, and an avid traveler. There is so much to explore here. He studied an MBA in sports management and has a wealth of experience spanning over 10 years coaching children. While living in New York City, Erik was advised early on to take a storytelling class. That stuck, and he later went to advance his studies in children's psychology and storytelling. Erik knows the importance of positive self-control and hopes that the young readers of his books come away with an improved concept of themselves. He writes of ancient exercises and sports psychology in an enjoyable yet understandable language, with the focus to teach children how to manifest their affirmations. So welcome, Erik. I'm so happy you're here. I know that there's going to be a lot of overlap in the work that we do, and I hope that this is the first of a couple of interviews. That was just reading a bio. I want you to tell us your story, please.
Sure. So I had always wanted, I don't like to be labeled things, so I always like to do new things. And so writing a book was just a new goal that I had before my son turned 2 years old. I wanted to publish.
He's two?
He's two now. He's two and a half.
Oh my gosh.
His name is Sebastian, and his dog is Sunday.
Oh my God.
The book is The Adventures of Sebastian and Sunday, and so that's him and our puppy. And those are the characters right there.
The Adventures of Sebastian and Sunday.
Yes. So that is the book series, and Good Luck is My Guardian Angel is the first book in the series, which is the introduction, and shows it teaches kids how to empower their affirmations on a daily life, on the level of the daily life, and the daily mundane things, and the playground and stuff like that. This book, in particular, is talking about the playground. And
Okay. I didn't know that it was based on your son and dog. That is so beautiful, like endless inspiration.
yeah, so now my
Like,
we have a book two that's going to be coming out. It's about manifesting your affirmations in sports and learning how to use them in any sport, but the book is going to be about the sport of jiu-jitsu. And so it's used, we use jiu-jitsu because it's a fighting sport. Technically, it's like an MMA, a mixed martial art. And so if you can apply it into a mixed martial art, then you can apply it mostly to every other sport. And I know that you
mhm.
can because I'm a soccer coach as well as um, a club director, but I also study sports psychology.
Which
So
one do you like the most? Or that's a terrible question.
I believe that jujitsu makes you a better person. I do
Yes.
truly believe that, and I don't believe that any other sport. Some of the martial arts, maybe that's arguable, but I don't really believe that many of the other sports make you a better person. Um, the
Yes,
way that
my kids
jujitsu,
did taekwondo and the general overall lessons about respecting elders and just fairness was emphasized, and I couldn't agree more.
exactly. And when you're a kid, I went through all of those, and I'm like, I can't waste my time with these speeches. I want to learn backflips, and I quit all of those because I guess you could say I'm a red. I have red fire energy, so I'm like, let's go, go, go. I don't, and
Me
now
too. Yeah.
full circle. Now I'm writing a book about it, and the book actually is full of the virtues and the speeches and the discipline. It's very much so about that.
So I have a question because I can already tell that we're like similar people. Do you carry your phone around and do notes because you'll have this connecting the dots inspiration or an idea and or do you do that
I
for
do.
your books?
And when I'm in writing mode, it's all day notes. Like you wake up in the middle of the
Yes.
night, and or after a dream, and you're like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'll forget this. So, yeah, when we're in writing mode, it's very much so like that. Or when we're creating something, it's very much so like that.
Okay, folks. So this is his first book. It's Good Luck is My Guardian Angel, and it's a series, The Adventures of Sebastian and Sunday. And it's available on Amazon. And again, this is the first of the series. So I'm super excited. Okay. So someone told you that you should be a storyteller when you were young. And how did that evolve after that?
Yeah. So,
And where were you born? Where?
I was I'm from the San Fernando Valley, so from Los Angeles area, Greater LA, and I grew up. I went to school in Bel Air and Los Angeles and Mulholland, all these places. Living. I lived in LA, but then I went to school at UCSB. My family moved in towards Simi Valley, so now we're in Simi Valley, the Ventura area. I went to school at Santa Barbara. Then after school, I wanted to go to Wall Street. Went to New York, and
Oh, that's what brought you to Wall Street. I
yeah,
mean, to
so
New York. Okay.
I was yeah one of those, and I went to go try to conquer Wall Street, and then I'm interviewing with all these people, and I realized like this is not me. These people are robots. This is not me. And
That was your soul calling.
I ended up getting a job for the producers of Wicked and Jersey Boys and the producers on Broadway, and I was doing their
Mhm.
international finance for them. And I was like
Awesome.
21 years old, maybe, a young
Mhm.
kid. And
He looks 21 now.
thank you. Yeah. So this was a while ago, and 2010, I was living there. And a lot of actors and actresses work in and around that environment, and so all the accountants are aspiring actresses. All of the
Uh-huh.
they're everybody's aspiring actors to be on Broadway.
Mhm.
And I made friends with a lot of the actors and actresses, and the actresses, one of them in particular, she's probably on Broadway right now. She says, you need to take a storytelling class because I think like maybe it was just that I would say things that were cool but in the wrong way or something. I don't know,
Mhm.
but sparked that, and that stuck. And then finally, years later, I did it. I just did an online course, on it, and I did a bunch of them. and then yeah,
Okay.
that's what sparked part of it. That was like learning to become a storyteller. Then made the storytelling so much more easy, and it allowed the story to kind of flow out. So I did do a lot of research beforehand.
Mhm.
I did do a lot of research
And then okay,
to make it easier.
you did?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, but then what happened after that? So, was it becoming a father that then you realized,
The father part was the deadline. I wanted to have a book published before he could speak. That way,
okay.
um, I'm always one step ahead of the game.
So
Um,
were you in New York when you became a father, or was
no,
it
no, that was like New York was 2010.
okay, so
My
what happened
my
in that decade?
so I moved back from New York just because it wasn't necessarily working financially. I was a young kid. I wasn't making enough. And I needed to focus. I couldn't focus in that city. It's so amazing. It's like every night there's something to do. So I had to come home back to
So
California.
that was a huge decision. How long were you there?
I was in New York only a year, and
Oh, okay.
my wife that I'm with now, who features in the book as well, is the reason I came back from New York. And
Okay.
I came back for her, and now we have a 2.5-year-old son. We've been married for 5.5
Oh,
years.
distance
And
couldn't break that love.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now you created a beautiful being.
yeah. He's a special boy. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, so you came back to California, and then what happened in that decade?
Well, we moved to LA, living in like Koreatown, two young kids in LA, and working in Santa Monica in finance. And this whole time, I'm coaching soccer at
So
night.
you're working in finance. Okay.
I'm working in finance, but I just don't like accounting. I didn't like it. That's the truth. I just don't like it. So, like, I don't want to be labeled. I got to keep doing stuff. I got to stay active. I have to have some side stuff. So I
So
have a
and you have an MBA.
yeah. So I
Okay.
after living in LA, I decided, yeah, I'm going to get my MBA. But I looking around at the options, I'm like, everybody goes to, well, the top kids go to UCLA. A lot of people go to CSUN in the local area.
Ruin.
Right. I go, I already went to UCSB. I can't I was like thinking of which programs. If it was up to me, I would have done a humanities and just enjoyed it. But
Mhm.
I couldn't because it's not, it's for financial gain and for professional development. So I decided I'm going to go to Real Madrid in Spain, and I'm going to do the sports management program with Real Madrid in Spain.
He's like, "I'm gonna go to Spain and do this." That's, like, so casually. That is awesome. That is
Thank you.
freaking awesome.
Yeah, so that was one of the best decisions I could have made because when I came back, I was the only one that had ever done that
Mhm.
in the community. And there's maybe two or three of us now out here in California that have been in that program and have those connections. And so my soccer my soccer club, ASA Futsal, it's a futsal club, has now been growing because of that experience that I've had. And now that is my evening job, and that's my personal club that I own. And I have now 5 youth teams that are training for U.S. and international
Really?
regionals. So I'm a soccer coach. I have about 11 different types of licenses and certifications for that. And so that's why I like to coach kids. It's easier for me.
So when you came back, you started coaching, and then you loved it so much, you eventually started managing, and then you created your own company.
that story is even further. The soccer story is a whole nother has a whole nother timeline because I had a business partner and he franchised his outdoor soccer club to the LA Galaxy, and I was coaching at the LA Galaxy, and he made me the liaison for the club. So then I became for the LA Galaxy Alliance. I became a pre-academy coach, a pre-academy director, pre-academy manager for three different
Because you
years,
knew the finance and structural side. So you
and
had
I could
the
recruit the best
physical,
players.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
you
we
had the
recruited a
physical
solid.
skill, the athletic skill, but then the brains also, I mean, it takes brains to have competitive nuance in any sport. But I mean, the finance and the management part, it then got you into these other
Yeah,
positions.
it opened
Okay.
the door because they looked at me as a professional. In soccer, you have to be a professional because it's just a sport that anybody can play at the park and anybody can tell you that they're a coach. And so, there are clear levels and degrees of experience that you can clearly see. And
Hmm.
so, for those reasons, I was allowed to be working with the board of directors. And so I was one of the board members. I became one of the board members. Um, and
And what is it called?
it was the LA Galaxy Conejo Valley
It was the
Alliance.
LA Galaxy.
It was the
Okay.
LA Galaxy Conejo Valley Alliance Club,
Okay.
and I was the coach, manager, and you could say assistant director of the program for boys that were born in 2005, boys that were born in 2004, and boys that were born in 2003. And at that time, they were like 15 years old. And now those boys are all playing. Not all of them, but they're going to play professional, some of them.
Okay. So, Eric, what is your heritage?
So my mother is from Medellin, Colombia, and my father is from Lima, Peru. And they
Beautiful.
both emigrated over here a long time ago, and they went to Balboa High School, and they were high school.
Colombia and Peru. You, gosh, the food that you grew up
Yes,
with.
yes, yes, yes. Every time we go to Peru, it's amazing. Yeah, and then we compare it to how they make it here in the States.
And it's just not as good.
Well, I mean, it's the capital of the world for food. Peru is. Colombia is good too, but it's not. It's different.
I remember one of my best friends at UCLA. We went to a Peruvian restaurant on the west side, and he ordered. It was a whole bunch of us. He was Peruvian, like appetizers and stuff. And I took a bite. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good!" And he's like, "You just ate cow balls or bull balls."
Oh no! Oh
It's
no!
like
That's
this
mean.
delicate meat. So, anyways, not that that reflects Peruvian food. Peruvian food is like so good. But okay, so that was the heritage. And are they still in the valley?
No, we've all moved to Simi, so most of my family
Okay.
lives in Simi and in Peru, and the other half, all of my other educated cousins live in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, you are coaching, you're in on this board for the Galaxy and the league in the valley, and then how long were you there?
Oh, I worked with the LA Galaxy for about 3 years. I was also their tournament director, which I failed to mention. So just to give an idea of like what I did, one weekend tournament with 200 teams on about 23 fields across three parks. That's what I was managing as the tournament director. And so,
So you're the big picture, a lot of moving pieces, visionary manager type.
yeah, I mean, it,
You like
it
the
was a lot, but I have to give credit to the board members that were there at the time who were amazing people. And they taught me everything. I learned everything from them, from them, really from
gosh, what was
them.
that like? It must have been fascinating.
It's growing up fast. That's what it is. It's growing
Yeah.
up fast because you're dealing with board members who, you know, important. people that get things done right away. And I just got used to getting things done right away.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did it help? Were there any like family or personal struggles to ask that during any of that time, and where you were able to then kind of change your thinking, or um and kind of what led into the work that you do today and the messages? Was it your own personal, or was it just becoming a father, or not just, but
So um, it's a good story. I My family collects art as a hobby. Over time, one of my uncles is a very excellent painter, and so we have commissioned him for things. But then I started to explore outwards and start to accumulate art, and so I like to get rare books and manuscripts, and then I have to read them or translate them. And then I started to learn that a lot of the ancient manuscripts all speak about your affirmations and
oh,
empowering your affirmations. And that's a big, um, it's like a collective read in between the lines kind of message that I got. And I started to study a little bit more, and that's how I learned a lot more about, the way that energy works in when you empower your affirmations. And or for instance, when you say a prayer and you light a candle, you are technically sacrificing the candle and you're offering it up to the angel or deity that's going to handle and accomplish your wish or desire or goal. And so then I realized, oh wow, this is already like people are doing it already, but how can we empower this? And then I go down this rabbit hole, and and then I realized, oh, there's a lot to it. And so the book is just part one of understanding it and learning about it, and then part two is going to be applying it into sports and your daily life, and then part three is going to be now the maximum, and it's going to be called an intuition training for
what,
kids.
how did it evolve within you? Like, from when you were on the board and then these collections, this is like more part of your personal life. And did you have like a several, or one or several of like aha moments where it struck something like within you, somewhere deep in your heart, and you followed that? And
Yeah, so it was like something I always wanted to do, but my son being born was what triggered the timeline part of it. I'm like, now it's time, because once he starts talking, I'm gonna have no time. So I
okay,
figured, like, at least to write. So I figured that was it's time. But yeah, it
okay,
was just an idea that had been brewing for a while, I guess.
okay. So I want to get into your current work, because this is just a beautiful evolution. And um, I mean, the podcast is called Home is Within You, Transforming Shame into Power, because I believe that shame just vehemently is the ego mind's biggest weapon to separate us from our true self and from each other. And I'm going to describe like the feelings that not only the different people I've interviewed have mentioned, some that I relate to, and also what I see in my children is how shame shows up, because I want to get right into your technique with empowering affirmations. Um, I mean, when we're born, there is no like ego identity. We don't have an inkling that we don't deserve love, food, or shelter, to be held. And what I learned through a lot of different things, particularly Kundalini yoga, was that over time, this ego or identity is developed. And in spiritual teachings, which I'm sure you've read and are familiar with, the term ego, it refers to like a false sense of self. And it's often characterized by like an attachment to our outside identity, desires or material possessions, roles, the labels you mentioned, and our purpose that it drives, us when we wake up in the morning. And so it's like it's an aspect of the consciousness, however, that I believe creates a sense of separation from others and from the infinite, and from our true selves. If we allow certain feelings to be so frequent that we start to, latch on to the stories or illusions our mind makes up about certain situations and start to
Mhm.
believe them as truth. Now, when the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are driven by fears, judgments, um, and just overall longing for acceptance and fears of abandonment that we all have, um, shame shows up. And I believe, if we're not observant of the quote unquote more minor feelings, um, and how shame shows up, that it easily can become it. And so what I learned the hard way was that these thoughts and these feelings, they show up through core wounds and core beliefs from early on as a child. And we all have, um the longing for acceptance, to be loved, to be adored, and that all comes from an ego identity that fears abandonment, that fears not being seen. And what I saw in doing my own trauma therapy and, work in the past was that the trauma that had occurred, and that I then that created these beliefs that I then held so tightly onto, I re-traumatized myself. But the way that they showed up, and that I'm hoping this podcast helps people with, is these types of feelings. So it's like Priya Jane explained, a sense of awkwardness, um, being told you're too sensitive. And so you feel awkward and different, like an outsider, very subtle feelings. This is how shame shows up. It can show up in anger, in resentment towards others, due to humiliation. It can also show up, or criticism or judgment from others. It can be coming up through anger. Another way is, by armoring up. And, we prepare ourselves to be in the energy of others, which is a really, really good thing. I'm just pointing out that it may be coming from some shame based feelings. And if we don't armor up enough, we may start beating ourselves up, and it just gets this wasted energy in a direction that Erik's going to help us shift. Another thing is self doubt, like a paralyzing feeling, confusion, and overall, like a running to standstill mode, as I like to call it. It's like you get up, you make your to do list, and you have to prove everything to the world. A grin and bear it mode. Your feelings or your hurt or your needs don't matter. And so when I see it show up in my kids, that's like clear projection. They're afraid of, not getting an equal amount of mommy's love or attention. And so they'll call their brother a bad name, or they'll tell on their brother. And or, definitely fear. I mean, this morning they had crazy hair day at school, and they and so I temporarily dyed their hair blue, and so they're in the car and they're anxious. They're like, "What if nobody else has crazy hair?" And they're like full of these stories in their head that they'll walk out and they'll be shamed or ashamed.
That's funny.
And so it was anxiety, it was fear of judgment, and there's so many different ways that that shame or potential shame can show up. And so when this is being observed in children, I'm so excited to have you share how those feelings, instead of being wasted in allowance of feeding them even more and them becoming shame, what do you coach children into doing to instead fill that energy with positive affirmations? And is this what the book is about?
Yeah, actually, very much so. This is a perfect example. Um, so, for instance, if you're doing something after the fact in a reactive manner, this is going to work. It has to be preventative and done beforehand. So, for instance, the book is about empowering your affirmations, and it is about visualizations. The book is about visualizations and visualizing these moments where you're going to be anxious. And so, before the night before, where we're dyeing little Jimmy's hair bright green, and he goes, "Oh no, mom, this is a bad idea. Nobody's going to make fun of me." You go, "Listen, close your eyes. Visualize going to school tomorrow. Visualize it from getting ready in the morning, from spiking your hair up in the mirror at home, all the way through. Visualize the whole thing, the ride to school. You're going to be nervous. You don't know what they're going to say. Then you get out of the car, visualize, you're going to be nervous. And then everybody shows up and everybody's hair is weird. You show up and everybody has weird hair and nobody even cares. And oh, haha,
Mhm.
okay, let's go in. Class starts. The bell ring. And the kid's like, the way I visualized it, something that's going to happen in a normal way, but that's not what he's envisioning. He's envisioning something that's causing him anxiety or causing him some sort of other feeling. So, as a parent, if we know he's going to be anxious going into that event tomorrow, into that class speech, into that performance, or into the singing performance, I forget what it would be called. You visualize it the night before, okay?
See,
And
I
so,
love this because it directs the ego mind the way in a way where we're telling it what to do. And versus all these thoughts just take a ride of their own and send, more anxiety. So this visualizing, I love that because it says, no mind, you're going to have this visual in your head and it's going to fill the space up there and not the other stuff. I
yeah,
love that.
and it's very important to add. You have to envision adversity in this
Okay,
visualization.
so visualize the situation and then visualize adversity.
Tell them in your imagination. Imagine somebody comes up and says, "Ha ha, that's not my favorite green. It's a different color green." Whatever, and they insult him. He
Okay.
visualizes it like, "Wow, it's not a big deal." And then just keep going and get
Okay.
through that and keep going. And then when that happens, somebody comes up and says something, he's like, "I knew that was going to happen." And he just keeps going,
Okay.
and it's like, and if it doesn't happen, he's like, I'm ready for it. and
Okay.
so and
So
so you
it's
can
confidence.
yeah, in a sense, this is considered front loading. You could front load. That's what we could call
Okay.
it. But the book now takes it to another level where it teaches you the ancient technique on how to make that even stronger and how to make it more empowered and how to give your kids that edge to make it really work when they do go to school and they do
Okay.
get confronted with those issues.
I love it.
Yeah.
So say more.
Yeah, so
It could be
technically,
quick, it could be long, it could be depending
so
on.
there's a lot of studies in the sports world about this. They study this going into competition. So Michael Phelps has videos all over the internet about this. He wrote it in his book. He did his visualizations for 2 hours or longer, and he would combine them with lucid dreams, lucid, before you go to sleep, you can do it. And there's rock climbers that are on record saying these things, and they visualize slipping a grip when they're hanging over a cliff backwards. They say that they visualize it so that way when they're there and it happens, they don't fail because they're nervous. They're like, oh, dude, this is exactly what happened. Like, I knew this was going to happen. And now you're like, all I got to do is overcome it like I did already. And so now you create a new synapse in your mind by visualizing yourself getting over those obstacles. So then when it's time for you to be confronted with that obstacle and get over it, all you're doing is going, well, I have already connected that synapse. I'm just going to reuse it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of
It's like
trying.
you're writing the story in your head instead of letting it just run free.
There is a little way. Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. And that's why the book is called
But
Good
the
Luck
but the
is My Guardian
synapses, say more about that. That's different.
Well, I'm not a certified professional by any means to be talking about synapses in the brain, but you create a new synapse, you create a new experience for yourself in your mind, and then you're able to do it in the future because you've kind of have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So another way of explaining some of the underlying way the energy works in this book is when you lay down to go to sleep and you close your eyes and you imagine that you're falling and you jolt and you try to, and then you remember, oh, I'm in bed. Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Okay, so sometimes when right before you fall into a sleep, you can have this weird dream, or let's say you wake up from a dream sweating. You wake up from a dream sweating. Okay, this is a prime example that
I had a bad dream last night. Yeah.
your brain does not know the difference between reality and your imagination.
I see.
And so your brain, you can, by imagining things, you can take your brain into those places and gain experience.
Oh, yes. I get it.
So then you're able to
So then you're
operate.
somatically prepared.
And then when you go up to speak and you can't speak because you're so nervous, then you go, that's never going to happen again. Read
Mm.
the book, you get the extra techniques, and then the next time you speak, you are significantly less nervous for the next time you
Okay,
confront.
I have woken up in like panic. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So
Okay, and
the,
then where do like the words and affirmations come in? Is it part of the front loading process or is this a
so
separate technique?
right, so that's essentially your root source, which is going to be your goal or your purpose. So,
Okay.
for instance, if it's blue hair day and that's our purpose and that's our goal, and the goal is to just be relaxed all day, then your affirmations are going to be based on being relaxed all day.
Okay.
You see, and you decide how to do it, and you visualize it. What you imagine relaxation to be is different than what I imagine, and so you envision it in detail.
Mm-hmm.
What they say, you
Home
aim
is
small,
within you.
miss small, aim small, miss small, and home is within you is the same as inside as without,
Mhm.
right? As below, so above. So, and they removed that from our education, as within, as well, is it esoteric and exoteric?
Oh, no one's ever told me that. That's really
So
cool.
what happens within will project with that on the outside.
Okay. I would love to dive in to your book. You explained the inspiration through your son and Sebastian and Sunday, your cat. And I really want to give you some time to share about it and show us the book. We're going to have a link to it. There is a link in the description, and just open it up to you after we've heard how it evolved, how it was inspired, and then some of the tips that people will find in it to help what I believe kids transform shame into positive affirmations. I so believe it can be applied to that. So tell us more about your book. Do you have one in front of you still?
Yeah. So, um, The Adventures of Sebastian and Sunday. Good Luck is my guardian angel. It's Sebastian and Sunday. It's his puppy and my son. And the book is the introduction to empowering your affirmations. So, the first step is understanding how to do that in mundane activities, and not mundane, but just daily activities, things that you wouldn't necessarily use affirmations for, things that you wouldn't expect could help you. You just, some kids are unaware of it.
Mhm.
And so the first book just introduces it to you.
And
And
you explained the visualization and all those steps that really takes control of a story our mind may have so that that doesn't take a life of its own. So visualization,
so,
pulling the tape through.
so just some feedback that I recently got the other day from a parent. One of my soccer players, their parents bought the book, and the father read it before the daughter read it because he was vetting it, maybe. And he read the book, and I got an email at 1 in the morning saying, you know, this book is amazing. This is excellent. And he says, this is so interesting because I personally, this is the father saying this, I personally envision myself going to meetings with people. And in my visualization, I try to find out how I can help them. And
Mm.
he said this, he front loads his business meetings using this technique. And he, I clearly I responded. I said, "Oh, this is an amazing, response. Thank you so much. But that's an excellent technique. I should start using that. But
Yes,
you
I
know, which
should.
which does it does help. It does help a lot, a
And,
lot.
we're not taught these things when we're little. We're not taught, we're not a body or our mind and ego stuff. It's like, but the way that you've written it and the way you approach it with your son gives these basic tools that we can can implement in our own lives. I love that. I do that
Yeah,
with my sons. I've learned to identify or put a name on my feelings. I had to learn that the hard way. Treatment, jail, hospitalizations, unaddressed trauma, and core wounds. Putting a name on feelings was like eye opening, you know?
yeah.
So to have
Mm.
feelings charts in the house reminds me that I need to do the same. And with your book and the steps that you went through, parents can do it along with their kids.
Hmm.
That's great.
Hmm. Yeah, and it helps develop, like, mothers always have like a real deep intuition when it comes to their kids. The kids at the store, and a firecracker goes off on the corner. Mom calls, "Hey, are you okay? What are you doing? I just had a weird
Mhm.
feeling."
Right.
And this type of stuff helps amplify your intuitions, and it helps amplify your receiving of that information. Um,
So if there's a panic or a thought, it's going within and front loading with, okay, there is this danger, this worry, this instinct. I'm going to play it through and I'm going to envision a different ending. Is
yeah,
that
well,
what you mean?
yeah, and you envision your ending as detailed as possible,
So
because
on the dire end, on the panic end, on the worst case scenario, or a good way of ending.
so, for instance, I'm not sure exactly like the best example,
but I'll give you a personal example. Like I do jujitsu, and the second book in the series is going to be regarding jujitsu, and it's how to manifest your affirmations in sports. And you have two different ways of playing sports. You have the training methods, and then you have the competition methods. And so
Mhm.
there's different types of visualizations for those, and there's techniques for those. And so when I do a visualization for jujitsu, I do imagine that the other guy is as good as me or better, and he smothers me, and he's not
Okay.
choking me, but I'm imagining that I am totally stuck, smashed under him on the floor, and I cannot move. And then I have to go, okay, I'm about to panic, but that's not the solution. The solution is, what is the technique? Because in jiu-jitsu, you learn the technique for escaping. So you have to stick to that, or else nothing else is going to work. So you have to stick to the
That's
technique.
fascinating because in trauma therapy and EMDR, you visualize a different ending and the light, uh,
Well, that is, you see, this,
desensitizes you to the severity, but this is a different approach in
no, you,
terms of you can survive and walk through the full effect of an assault, of strangulation, and I'm just giving an example in my
right.
personal
Yes.
experience. I That frightens me, and I can't imagine redoing that, yet it can twist or it can flip a nightmare. That's an immediate skill, like in the morning with flashbacks or nightmares. What anybody can do is, well, I experienced that again. I lived through it, and I'm okay. I
Yeah.
love that idea. I'm
So
okay. I survived.
So, for instance, to use what you just said as one of the
Mhm.
examples, somebody that has like flashbacks in the mornings. Okay, so before you go to bed, you front load on how to you visualize yourself encountering those flashbacks in the morning before you go to
I
bed.
see.
Okay, and you do the technique the night before you lay in bed, and you just, you imagine yourself going through this obstacle, but you also imagine yourself, what's the end goal is to get through it. And you know yes, I might, if I hear a loud noise, for instance, and I get scared, it's going to happen. Even somebody without an issue hears an
Right.
explosion and something, I'm going to freak out. So you're not going to ever get rid of that. You have to know, okay, we're going to go through that. And so when you're able to go, okay, I'm super
That's
in,
fascinating.
back to
Yeah.
jujitsu, because this is like the strangulation, where
Mhm.
you're like, oh my gosh, I'm squirming, like this is the end, like this is not, there's no like, oh, it's not anxiety, it's like, they're going to choke you. So you have to be able to go, wow, I'm freaking out, but I have to remember the specific technique. Step one, protect the neck. Step two, you want to go two hands to one, for instance, as an example. And then that way you can have more strength. So that, I don't want to get too much into,
Mhm.
that type of stuff. However, let's focus on your front loading for the issues that you're going to have in that morning. So that way, when you're like, you're gonna grab your coffee, and you ordered it or whatever, and they're about to hand it to you, and you have a quick flashback, and you're like, you freak out. You're like, yeah, I already knew that was gonna
It
happen. Yeah.
transforms the fear and the anxiety of the worry of having one into, like,
It's a
I
speed
love the
bump.
word front load, into experiencing it and having the skill. I mean, diving into the severity is what I'm saying, diving into
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
darkness. It's the fear of the darkness and the attack or anything that really, um, takes away, the light, as a saying,
Hmm.
the fear, not the darkness itself. So it's like,
Hmm.
diving into the fear and the memory, and then front loading, and that, okay, this is going to happen, and it transforms that fear really into empowering and more of a control. That's great. Do you like how I applied it to trauma?
I think that it kind of already applies, and we're
Yes.
just kind of connecting everything, and
Mhm.
I think that Originally, you remember the original emails that he had sent me, we had a different idea, but I think that this has been amazing
Mm-hmm.
because I did not realize that your examples were going to be so easy for me to connect, so to speak,
I
you know.
see.
And so I
Yeah,
think that it
well,
worked out really well.
I mean, this can help children in so many different scenarios. So many, so many, especially if they have a parent that's struggling or if they themselves are struggling. It's really, I
Hmm.
love this technique. So I don't know if I asked you the title. So we
Oh no,
know good luck.
you froze on me.
Good luck is my guardian.
The series, The Adventures of Sebastian and Sunday. Book one is the introduction to the affirmations. Book two is inserting those affirmations into sports. Book three is going to be an intuition training, which takes the entire thing to a whole new level. That will be the pinnacle of the series. And I'll just have to wait for reviews from the readers to see what they say. So if anybody is able to check this book out and leave me a review, I would really appreciate it. And thank you again, Nadia.
So he's saying, check the book out, leave a review. And we are moving through some technical
Well, I
difficulties.
stopped in a rush
But
there.
guys, the website for his book is in the description. And I want to thank everybody for being here. It's always
Sorry.
good to transform our trauma
All right.
healing,
Oh, you
our
have to download,
12-step
right?
work into life skills we can teach our children. And I am forever grateful that my own journey is allowing me the opportunity to do that today. I want to
I
thank you,
want to
Erik
redo that closing
Perezbrain,
and not make it about my
fellow
book and make
honorable
it more
mention
about their
from the
take home.
International Latino
Let's
Book
reset.
Awards,
When you finish downloading
and
that,
just
I'll
say
reset the
thank you for the
page
work you do.
and I'll try again.
I also want to
If
say
you want
if
to, I think it'd be
anybody
better if I focused on the
purchase his
parents
book,
instead of like leave me
please
a
let me
review. I
know
think it's
if
better
you
if I
would like a
say,
donation of his book. I am
go
going
home,
to offer that I will
try to
buy
use
3 different
this
copies
technique
and
with
send
one of
them
your, with
to any
yourself as a
parent
parent
out there in
first,
recovery.
and
If
then if it
if
works for
you
you,
go through the Mind Body Spirit
pass it
app,
on to the kids or get the book. Because if
download
it works
that,
for you, then you'd really need to
press
get the
the
book
open mic
to
icon,
amplify
and leave me a
to
message.
amplify
Okay, it's
your
super
affirmations, the
easy.
power behind your
Sending a
affirmations.
load of warm hugs. Please comment
You
about
could
this
say something
podcast and let me
namaste.
know what more things you would like to hear. Also, have you checked out the series on core wounds? It's really quite something. Sending warm hugs. Bye.